Hello, today I'm going to demonstrate the product importer available on the Integrations Hub. Quickly though, I will show you the store that I'm going to use from a demo perspective. So this store has no products in it at the moment. And as a prerequisite, the product importer does depend on certain configuration elements being available and pre-configured in the store. So I'm going to quickly flip to configurations and show you that the data set that the product importer will process requires that templates pre-exist. Any template data that's available in the data set will need to have those templates pre-existing. So in this case, I've created an example data set, which contains 3 attributes: date, integer, and string. In addition, if there are variation elements within the data set, those variations do need to exist. So in this case, I've got 2 variations created, color and size. It is important to note, however, that the options within those variations do not need to pre-exist. The importer will detect if variations don't exist, and it will auto-create them as part of the import process. And so that's it from a configuration perspective within the store. Now I'm going to switch over to the Integrations Hub. I'm going to search for import. And here we have the Elastic Path Commerce Cloud product import. I'll just quickly read this description. So this asset supports the import of Elastic Path Commerce Cloud product data based on a rich product representation, which I'll show you in a minute. The APIs are invoked to build the product model, and you'll see in the integration documentation that will come with this importer some of the options that are available. So I'm going to continue to configure. And you'll see in the trigger details the available endpoints. We will only be using this first endpoint, the gzip file URL handler. It is the main entry point for this integration. There is also native support to add an API key, but for the purposes of this demo, we won't do that. So I'm going to continue to configure. And as part of the configuration, I do need to supply the token URL, which is slightly different than the default, because this is a staging environment. I will also need to supply the client ID as well as the client secret. I will be deleting these after the demo. Further down in the configuration, you will notice there are throttling configuration. The importer will restrict itself in terms of the number of API calls that it will make to the Commerce Cloud platform based on this configuration. So with this configuration, the importer will only allow 6 concurrent API calls to the platform within a 250 millisecond window. There are some additional configuration elements, but I won't describe those in this demo. So I'm going to connect. Make sure my connection is valid. And there we go. And I will finish. So now we have the integration configured within this store. And I'm going to collect the URL, the endpoint for the integration. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to switch over to Postman. And I'm going to add this to my request. The bare minimum payload that needs to be supplied is this gzip file URLs element, and it accepts an array of URLs. These URLs need to be publicly available so that the import can read the files, process them, and all the goodness that goes along with that. From a security perspective, it will be important to secure these in some fashion. So for the moment, what I'm supplying here is an S3 pre-signed URL. So the S3 bucket itself is private, and this URL will expire. after a certain period. So that is an option to expose these. And I'm going to click send. And there we go. So I'm going to quickly flip over to my store again, and we should see the execution in progress. So while that's waiting, I'll quickly flip over to the model to show this. So this is a JSON object. The data set that's supplied for each gzipped file, the system will expect it to be in the JSON lines file format, which basically means that each delimited file record within that file should be one entire object as represented here. So the new line will act as the delimiter, and you can read more about the file format later. But in the meantime, this canonical model supports localized name and description, other core attributes. It also supports media files. It also supports template data, as well as SKU products. So if this is a base product that requires variation data to be generated, the importer will detect that and generate it appropriately. And then if there are additional changes that you want to make at a child level, so to override slug or SKU, to add localized data or media files, the importer will pull this data and update as necessary. So if we flip back to the execution, this should be nearly complete. So the warnings that you see here are to be expected. In some cases, we will detect that template entries are not found, and we will update those entries. This is fairly normal at a child level. So from an inheritance perspective, when a child gets generated, it will inherit the template data from the parent, but the related entries won't be found. And so what we'll need to do is update those entries as we detect that the child entries don't exist. And so we see that the import is now successful. If we flip back to Commerce Manager, we'll see, so the data set that I loaded had 100 base products, and each of those 100 products had 4 child products. So therefore we see 500 products that have been generated. You'll see we've got a whole bunch of data in here. And so if we quickly open up one of these children, you'll see that the generated SKU and slug have been overridden, as well as the product template data. This is now represented on a child basis. And that's it. Thank you for watching.